Mexico?
Yeah, I just moved to New Mexico about 8 or 9 months ago, and it was a calling. I was not anticipating it, and I'm literally, a voice to me said, "Go to Chiapas." Actually, it was like, "Go to southern Mexico." And so I went. I was living in Oceanside at the time, and I get there and I go to this place called Chiapas de Cursa, which is actually, I think, Chiapas of the heart.
Oh my gosh, of course.
And I'm walking down this like town street, and there's this huge, beautiful tree that's native to Chiapas. And as I walk under it, it's like, it literally feels like a shower of like light and chi pouring down through my body.
Whoa.
And the first thing I realized there was, trees are the original churches. They are the original churches. The church built the wall around the tree, but you could still sit in circle, on the outside of it, underneath the umbrella. And then the second thing that came through was that I have to stay on the land. Like it was like kind of like okay, Aaron, you're here now. Like you're feeling a connection with the trees in this way, so stick with it. And so then I get back from Mexico, and landlord tells me, my granddaughter became homeless. You need to move out.
Oh, it's so perfect. You're like,
I was like, oh, okay, well, I knew I wanted to stay on land. So, and right at the same time, my friend sent me that she, who's a friend of mine from when I lived in Indonesia, and she bought a place here in New Mexico, and she and I are living together, and we've created kind of like a little healing Airbnb,
like a sanctuary space. Yeah, I could feel it already. It's like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so cool to see the hip campers and the Airbnbers, because they come here and we have like a thing across the river, and they're city people usually, and they're a little like, oh, what is this? I have to walk across stumps across the river. And but by the end of the weekend or their stay, they're so soft and they're so just, ready to connect.
Relaxed, right? It's
like nature is just such a easy medicine.
I'm gonna have to come visit you. That sounds incredible.
Oh, come, please, please. We've got. I just got a scamp, so you can sleep in the scamp. We've got a tent, and it is such a special place because it's green and vibrant here, and yet we're at 7,000 feet, and it's the high desert here.
That's kind of how it is here in Sedona. We've been getting a lot of rain. I don't know about you guys, but we've been getting tons of rain. And I'm driving from Cottonwood, which is just usually gray or white desert, and it's super green right now. And now I know why they call it the Verde Valley, is because back in the day, it used to rain a lot more. And so there was just green. And I'm like, this is the way it's supposed to be. And it's like, I'm getting to get a glimpse of like maybe what it used to look like when it was named,
Yeah. It definitely is a healing place. What I understand, it was Apache land where we are living, and it was the Switzerland of the areas, meaning it was not a place. It was a place where people put down their arms, and I think it's because they thought the river it brings such life and respite. So they didn't want to destroy that peace, and I think that's been like kind of like my heart journey has been tuning into that. Oh, peace it's already there, and it's already there. It's already there. I when I was just blogging on before we started talking, I got a little emotional because I was thinking about how you and we come from a world, we came from kind of the mouth of the beast. So
like a whirlwind. Yeah. I've been reflecting on that a lot too.
Yeah. And yet like here we are. And there was a tinge of like sadness in it. And then I realized, well, wait, no, the joy is like, it was already there. It just like the peace is already there. But I got just a little sidetracked,
Right.
And
And even then, it's funny. I've been telling a lot of people what's the words that have been coming through lately is training. We were getting trained there.
yeah,
Like, because
yeah,
you have to be very discerning and there's all kinds of energies there and you really have to navigate that. So it's like mastery training of navigating energy, you know?
exactly. Yeah. So it was a lot of gifts I got from, working in that world of communications and now I think, but now I don't have to be driven by the treadmill of the external as much. And so much of my life has changed now because I'm coming from, okay, well, where is it coming from here, starting here,
Hmm.
from the heart, from where I feel aligned, where my will and heart feel aligned with something greater than myself. And yet, like within, it's resonating here, not
Right.
an idea.
Right. And that's kind of where as we're kind of reflecting on how far we've come on our journey, I remember the time we all met, like you, Bob, all these star seeds this was like a specific year. I want to say it was 2015 or 2016 is around the time.
Yeah, I think it was around 16. It might have even been 17 because I
Right.
know we met through Chief Golden Light Eagle, like Star
Oh, that's
Knowledge.
right. Oh, that
Right.
was such a powerful time. And I feel like between 2015 and 2017, but like mostly
Yeah.
2015, 2016 is when I really
16. Oh, yeah.
remember I met key people in my life. Like you were one of them. Like I have like a whole list of people that I still am connected with. Just like, even though we don't talk every day, I still have like this soul connection with you guys. And it's really cool to see what everyone's doing now. Like I think one of my friends is in Joshua Tree, another one, George. I don't know if you met him, the one with glasses. He ended up, I can't remember if you met him, but he's like in some community, like building
Oh,
gardens and stuff like that. It's just kind of cool to see what everyone's doing. So I know
yeah.
for a while, weren't you living in like LA area?
Yeah. So for a while, I was in LA and I was teaching Qigong there. And then
Hmm.
I moved down to Oceanside, San Diego
Oh,
area. And I
it's so
still
gorgeous.
teach. Yeah, that was a wonderful place. It just became so expensive that I was like, that was part of I think what allowed me to see other possibilities, because you
Right.
grew up in California, right?
Well, actually, I
Or did
grew
you?
up in Utah. I wasn't from there.
Oh,
I was only in
oh,
California because I went to fashion school there. And I ended up staying
oh,
there because I started climbing the ladder
yeah,
and doing all the working for big fashion businesses and everything. And then finally, what got me on my spiritual path was my healing crisis because I was just working too much. And so yoga became my
yeah,
foundation. And I had to just kind of
yes,
start from basics, and spirit led me every step of the way to completely heal my body. When the
yeah,
doctors were telling me you're never going to be able to use your hands the same again, and like your hands are going to basically be crippled, like they wanted me to be on a disability, and I was like, no, I'm not going to claim that. So I claimed my healing. And there was something kind of like the voice
yeah,
that told you to go to New Mexico. There was just this voice that kicked in. And the only time I've heard that voice before that was when I was in Utah and it told me to move to California. And of course, it was so powerful. I couldn't
hmm,
it was like, oh, I guess I'm moving to California, you know?
yeah, yeah. And the voice, I love that you mentioned the voice because sometimes when I was beginning, I would say, oh, well, they've got like a separate voice. It's like a different voice, a different person's voice
Yeah.
telling them. And it's actually, it feels like you're almost making it up, but it's actually the voice. It's your
Yeah.
inner higher self voice. And
Right.
it's clear. The calling, the feeling is
Yeah, it's
clear.
in your heart. It's like you can
Yeah.
feel it resonate in your heart when you're hearing it. That I love that we're bringing this up because I think that this is an important part of awakening because when you start to listen to it, well, for me, it was never really an argument. Like most people are kind of like, I can't hear my intuition, so they don't follow their intuition. But for me, the
Right.
voice, it's just like telling you very, like you said, clearly, like you're
Yeah.
doing this. And it's not like even a question. It's just like, this is where you're going.
Right. Right.
It's like, of
Because all other
course.
Yeah, the feeling of all other falls away. It's like you have this just clear tunnel vision of clarity and feeling.
Yeah, and you could feel it in every cell in your body. I think that's why it's like it was so easy for me to follow the voice, is because it was like, oh
Yeah.
yes, that naturally, you know.
It's like a shiver up my spine is usually what it is, or it'll be, a tingling, it's like, oh, you're basically your heart parasympathetic center is like opening. And
Hmm.
that's a typical biofeedback sign too, that you get that tingly, or you get a little warmer, or you get a feeling more presence.
Right, and it's actually not. So one of the things I like to um, establish here too is that it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like pain. Like I think that's when we know when something we shouldn't follow is when you're actually feeling some kind of intenseness in your body that feels like you're sick, or
Right.
just like, oh, it's like icky. That's when I know that there's something I need to stay away from. But
Right.
if it's
Yeah.
like guiding me, it's like what you're describing. It's just like kind of almost giddy, and just this joyful sparkling something going on in my
Right.
body. So it's cool to
Yeah.
kind of distinguish that. And then
Yeah.
for you were living in California for a while, right? Did you say you're from there?
Yeah, I'm from California and born and raised, and then I made my way to Chicago, and I wanted to be. I had always, done singing and done some theater growing up, but I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to like tell the truth, the
That's so
truth.
funny. I went into broadcast journalism. That was the first thing
Yeah.
I did when I went to college, but then I immediately realized it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I wanted to be an investigative reporter, and through the course of my time in journalism school, I almost got expelled because I found I was given an anonymous tip about a story that was not positive for people in a very powerful organization,
Wow.
and that was like a little disconcerting because I was like, here I am studying at a journalism school, and yet the people there are telling me, oh, well, that's not a story. And I'm like, well, what do you
Wow.
mean that's not a story? Um, and that was like the first wake up call. And then I went into it, and um, I was in the middle of like Michigan in the winter, and I was just, it, it was storytelling about very mundane, gas prices and weather. And
It's
it was so
controlled, right? You
it was
probably
interesting to
realized
me
how
is how much
controlled.
money was being spent on like these narrow topics that
Mm,
really don't create this feeling.
right.
It's like it creates this feeling.
It's just like the programmed status quo. It's like
Yeah,
these are the parameters that you can operate in, and like going out of the box is like they want you to feel like it's taboo, right?
exactly. And so then I was like, okay, I see that the information is actually coming from organizations, and then the media just kind of disseminates the information. So I said, okay, I'll go on that side. And I worked for large companies. I worked for very recognizable people who were that you would just recognize. You would recognize these people, uh,
Right.
and for nonprofit, like national, international nonprofits. And again, I was seeing that the narrative was about kind of running. Um, I don't know what the position is in football, but where you protect, it's like a safety guard. It's like you're running protection for your donors. And
Hmm.
who are the donors, and what are the donors like is $5 million enough to like solve the issue of hunger? Or is it enough
Right.
just to make sure that if that company that's donating it is that enough just to make sure that the nonprofit doesn't speak ill of them and their contribution to the issue of hunger?
Right. Right. Well, so it
That's
sounds like you had a pretty deep like realization of how the system was very corrupt at a, pretty
Yeah, and
early
yet
on.
here I was wanting to like I really wanted to tell the stories of what is true, and but this is not the way that it works, and there's a reason for that. There needs to be a structure of some sort for the people, but the thing is now it's become so narrow and so constricted that what I realize is I don't want to tell people their narrative. I want people to help discover their inner story and their inner, and really the story can sometimes even get in the way if we start writing our own story, and then we get attached to that idea of what our story is, but at least have the access, the base layer of connection and awareness, which is, it's the heart and the heart and the will and the mind, this center here, right?
Yeah.
And it is in the body, but there's also a quality of feeling and then a quality of presence, I guess. And so I needed to go in that direction because there was something in my internal guidance system that was still drawn, I think, to like the external, that was drawn to like, there was a I guess a power, maybe even, that I didn't recognize was drawing me and out of my center, even if it was for good, like, because I was doing, the farther along I went on my career, I was trying to align with what felt true, but still it's not the outer, it's the inner. And so that was when my journey began. And it was 2015. 2014 was like the and then 2015, that was like, I just made actually, I didn't make the decision. Universe presented some information about a person that I was working for, and I did not want to have any affiliation with that person anymore. And so then I said, oh, I want to go create some space and to feel and connect. And then it was 2015 that took place. And what was amazing was I had it was just a practitioner, that I met at a cafe, and she had me breathe in my belly and my chest. And she said, she repeated this phrase that my heart and will are one. And for whatever reason, that phrasing with that breathing, it opened me. Wow. And it was, yeah, I mean, I still feel, yeah, I mean, it's amazing what happens when I got in my body, and I just affirms my heart and will are one. And then it just there was no thinking involved. It wasn't thinking. It was, I'm just a channel that is receiving. It was that clear, it was just clearly like I am receiving clarity or light and so that attuned me even more to my heart and helped me move in directions that were not thinking based. Like I said, the initiation with the tree, that was, well, I gotta move in this direction because I'm feeling it, but there is a wisdom about it too. Like sometimes in the beginning I would just, you got, when you're getting your internal navigation system online, you can sometimes, you learn the difference between being impulsive and being discerning, with that feeling. So
right, it's kind of like it's always been there, but then you have layers that just, you're like, oh yes, it's pulling me in this direction that's more supportive to my heart and soul, and your will and heart. That's beautiful. And so then at that point, that kind of sets you on the journey of more of your spiritual path, right? And then you started realizing like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Oh yeah. It became more a sense of sensing and being versus doing. Like that, I had to kind of move into that space more, which required not doing.
Right. And you had to practice that, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure it wasn't just like an easy click over, where you're like all of a sudden,
No, and still just, still sometimes I can get into that habit. It is like 90%, 95%. I'm able to come from here and then move. And but
Well,
it
it's
does
more
feel like
natural
that
now. It's kind of
pendulum.
like when you first start meditating, it's like a practice and it's a little more difficult, but then all of a sudden you get to that space where it becomes like a walking meditation and you're just
Yeah,
naturally
exactly.
in your heart, you
And,
know?
and and I will tell you, the breath meditation was kind of like what I started with. And then I got to explore the Qigong more, and that was really helpful for me because one of the fundamental principles of Qigong was where my awareness goes, Qi flows. And that literally can be in your field and in your body. You can develop an awareness to that degree, right?
Oh, it's powerful, right?
Right. Yeah. So when I learned, and it's a breath that Yogananda taught, and it's like all of the masters of breath. They just say extend your exhale and bring feeling awareness here to the back of your heart and spine, because
Mm,
that's where your dorsal vagal nerve is, and it's where the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. Practicing having feeling awareness here with a little bit longer exhale, this was it for me. It like, oh wow, I have this whole space here, and it turns on an awareness that is not a thinking. It's not thinking, it's
right. We're
feeling.
not up here at all. It's like it really is here, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And that has, I think, made the journey a lot easier, even
Mhm.
though it's not easy, but it's easier when you're coming from a place of what is true and noble, and
Right.
and you get access to that. I got access to that when as the heart opened with my breath.
What I was really tuning into as you were speaking was like, this is kind of like, it's funny that I just watched this morning as I like just woke up. There was just a David Icke film
Mhm.
about him putting like 3D a 3D headset on. And so that's literally what we're
Yeah.
living in when we're living from our mind, is like we're living in that 3D matrix mindset. And when we drop into the
Well,
heart, it literally snaps us out of the spell of this like really weird upside down, like even physics don't really make sense in the 3D world to me. And I mean, I've always felt that way, but
yeah. Well, and it's funny, I was not ever a religious person, but it's interesting for me to see some of the cues that these religions all around the world would do with, like, for instance, okay, you bring your hands together, right? This is your Lao Gong point. Major chi
right,
comes out of here, right? And you
right.
put it here. And then when you bow in prayer, which is kind of like just like setting intention or opening space, right? It's you bow your head. Well, this is me taking the energy here and bringing it here, right?
Yeah.
It helps me feel a little more just here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about opening and softening, and yet standing in my center. That was the other thing that I think became an important part of my journey, was being in my center, not someone else's. Um, and then also opening up my center to realize, I am not my story either, because I can get caught up in this identity thing. And that happens even too when I moved into this role as like a facilitator. I became attached a little bit to my role idea of myself as that. And really, I'm so much more than that. And so that's what's allowed, other aspects of my life to open up, not just my job, not just like, what do I do, like. And I love to sing, and I love to play the monochord and the koto, and I love to spend time with my niece and show up with my nieces in like a playful, joyful way, and spend time in nature. Life becomes a lot more. How interesting.
That was weird, huh?
That was weird. How did you do that?
I don't know. I guess, you never know with the energy what will happen, but yeah, I
Yeah.
love, and what you were saying about all these, getting out of the identification, is that we really are multidimensional. And so to put like one label on yourself is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's helpful if you're fitting into like a system, it's helpful if you're fitting into a system, but
Mhm.
uh I think what New Earth is about is that we're going back to the land. So many of the teachers, that and the clairvoyants and whatnot have said that this is the time when the people will go back to the land. We're coming from a time we were a greater concentration of people were living in cities and suburbs than ever before. And so now the pendulum will swing back, and that'll create the space, for us to. I do notice living in the nature, my desires to consume, to be an identity, are less. They're more balanced, I should say,
Right, because it's not like those things are necessarily bad. And what you were saying about the different religions as well, what I really wanted to say is that we're coming into the rainbow prophecy, which is where all the tribes come together again, and you realize, like, oh my God, our skin color doesn't matter, our culture, where we came from, doesn't matter. We're all coming together in that namaste of like the center. That's all that really truly matters, is that we're in our heart. And I would say advanced species, they were all heart teachers, or they came here to give us technology that really worked from the heart. Maybe not all of them, because I know there's some that lost their feeling, but
you're saying the rainbow prophecy
so the rainbow,
all the colors coming together, all these different perspectives. Colors are just an angle of light.
Right. And also, if you look at the rainbow, that's a reference again to the chakras and how they, like, when you bring them all together, it's like a white light, and that's really source energy. It's got all the colors in it. It's like this separation game is coming to an end. That's what the prophecy is all about. So it's realizing that we are connected. And that's why nature feels like the true church, is because it's like, this is my divine nature all in harmony, and we're coming back into that harmony again. So I love that you're out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's a reason, why the first Buddha, he claimed enlightenment while he was sitting under a tree, under a Bodhi tree, right? Like, these are like the most nourishing antenna of, earth and starlight. They're just so, and the more we can practice, I can practice feeling 1% more softly, that there's a yoga nidra teacher named Richard Miller, and he uses that phrase. It's not rocket science. It's just feeling 1% more softly. It's not 10%, 50%. It's just 1%, because then that changes the whole trajectory of the awareness.
It's like trying to force something, right? It's the difference between forcing something and just allowing.
Yeah. And with Qigong, for instance, you can feel a lot of presence and love and awareness, but the number one thing when people are starting out is we actually have to let go of the tension here in the belly. There's this idea that in the West, that we need to have a certain body that looks a certain way, so we pull it in a little bit, but also that we need to effort, to get, we need 6-pack abs, and we need to effort there. And really, if you let go here more, the fountain of chi opens up. It opens up, and it gives you connection through your whole being.
And isn't that your Dantian? That's like your Dantian spot, which is really important, right?
Yeah, it's your Dantian. It's one of your Dantians. There's 3 of them, and they also are called emperors or emptinesses. So with emptiness, you need space. You need space.
I love it. And that's a lot of times what I'm teaching, is to create the space in your breath and your body,
Yeah. But I just breathed someone this morning and was saying it's safe to surrender and trust. It's difficult to let go of your breath, your exhale even. It's not ingrained in us to surrender and trust. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not safe to move forward in my life either. It's this funny, paradoxical sounding balance, but it's possible. It's possible because somehow we're here. Somehow we are an emptiness and we're a being.
Right.
So,
isn't that? That just really hits, wow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a miracle, that was the other thing that happened in 2015 was I realized that like I'm experiencing a miracle. Like I was witnessing miracles more and more, and that, wow, like that was also a game changer for me to see how much love there is, just and not even from anyone else, but like that's coming through my being and presence. And there's this feeling of almost of guidance, of support. It's a miraculous feeling. um
And
and
I
as well,
feel like the only way we can get there is letting go that control, that we've been conditioned to be controlling
yes,
everything and over planning, overthinking, like exerting effort rather than the flow. And the flow, to me, that's the living miracle. We are living miracles when we just allow that life force energy to flow unresisted.
yeah, exactly. And it's the breath is the doorway. The breath, where I'm coming from, the breath is the doorway to feeling more softness and to break through this sympathetic state that most people are in, and they don't even realize that they're in a sympathetic state. It's the fight or flight state. It's the feeling of a cheetah's coming after you, right?
Right.
Or in today's terms, it's a text message getting ready to be received by you from your boss. Or it's the feel you're just waiting with anticipation for the next.
Right.
And we don't even and being in cities, we don't realize we're in
That
this
was me in LA, and I didn't even unravel it completely. It took me 2 years, and I'm still unraveling the layers from that. Just
yeah,
that state exactly you're talking about. There was always that feeling like I've got to keep looking for a job because I was a freelancer.
right.
And it was just this constant state of like, like gotta
Yeah,
run any
right.
moment.
Yeah. And then it was a revolution for me to realize, oh, I have a parasympathetic nervous system, which is the healing. That is the magical healing part of your nervous system. When you go to bed at night, many people, not all people though, are in their parasympathetic state. And that's when your body gets to heal
Yeah,
itself.
that's the healing, the repairing. And think of all the people that are insomniacs and,
Right.
have a hard time sleeping. I know so many people that have said they can't sleep very well. And I'm like, oh my God, you must be in so much pain right now because your body is literally just not able to heal itself. And there's
So
got to
the
be
breath,
so much going on there.
it's the breath. When I learned that the dorsal vagal nerve at the backside of the heart and the spine is the area that is the button for the parasympathetic nervous system. It sends the signal to the right hippocampus in the brain, hey, slow down the heart rate. Okay, that's one beginning groundwork for parasympathetic. And then it also turns on the parasympathetic nervous system with common feelings of peace. But the way you feel it in your body is either as hot, heavy, tingly, or dry hands or feet, extremities, right? So those are the biofeedback signs of peace, right? Hot, heavy, tingly, or dry hands. The galvanic skin response, if you're in a sympathetic state, you get sweaty palms, right? It's like, like you don't, you want to have that peace. And then the peace is where you can start actually doing Qigong and feeling the Qi, because
Right.
tingling hands, right? Like, or when you're doing yoga, or, I practice a form of Kriya yoga. This is also like, it is a form of opening through the softness through the center with your breath and the parasympathetic nervous system. We can't do anything if we can't get the maximum benefit if we're not in a parasympathetic state.
What's funny too that you mentioned with Kriya Yoga, when I first came to Sedona after living in that crazy LA state of being in the sympathetic, that was the first form of yoga that really started to blossom was the yin. It was the whole and restorative and yoga nidra as well just became part of my healing journey at that point. And I
And
didn't realize it.
one of the progenitors of Kriya Yoga, Lahiri Mahashaya, in his writings he essentially says the 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 thing about the technique is that it seems so simple. It
Like dumbly simple. You're just like,
dumbly
really?
simple, right? So like, so that's great, and if you appreciate that this person is like one of the original biohackers, they're original biohackers are saying it's like deceptively simple. Well, then all this other stuff of like cryogenic, freezing in your body, or like all
Right.
these
Oh my God. It's crazy what they've got going
things.
on.
There's so many things. It's so simple. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Right. I love it. And that's how I know I'm on the right path sometimes, is if it's dumbly simple. Like, oh, it's almost like eludes you because your mind can't conceive of it. And that's where miracles, the frequency of miracles is beyond the mind. And so that's why they're almost unbelievable, because you're like, oh my God.
Right.
Like, I've even had miracles go right past me because I wasn't looking for them. And it's like, oh, and then I like, in retrospect, I'm like, I see him whizzing by and I'm like, oh, I could have grabbed that. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Actually, one of the miracles I'm thinking about is when the reason why I found Kriya was because I had a very powerful awakening experience, where a lot of, and this is not common for everyone, but and it's not a good or a bad thing. I just want to like preface this. It's what it is, and
Everyone's I feel is so
you
different.
don't aim for any of this. You just you note it, and then that's it. And for me, I had a lot of energy go up my spine, and it was very powerful. It was amazing because there was an awareness of just the unity of everything, but it was also a dark night of the soul. It was like extremely intense, and the way to help balance the energy is with Kriya. And so, but what was interesting was, so that one of the miracles was that I mentioned this to somebody, and that was the first thing that they had mentioned. And so it's a very simple technique, and you can receive it from like Self-Realization Fellowship. They have the science of getting your body into that state so that you can actually receive it healthily. How interesting. It went off again.
That's so weird.
I don't know why it does it then.
I know.
It's going to happen at two interesting moments, but anyway.
Well, so keep talking about the Kriya and the fellowship realization.
Oh yeah, and the yoga. So the miracle though was getting in touch with that, and then also like, I realized I needed to be on the land, being in the city, and I was like, how am I going to do this? And I went on Craigslist and I just started like messaging people, and somehow I found a home for very cheap, a room to live in, that was in Rancho Santa Fe, California, on like 4 acres of land. Wow. And I arrived there, and I'm like, and they said, yeah, we want to be your roommate. And then it turns out that they also practice Kriya Yoga. So
I love it.
And it was unbelievable. And then the other miracle was we had to move out of that home a year later, and we kind of like just put out an intention, hey, can you help us find a place? Can universe help us find a place? And I kid you not, a devotee of the temple that we were at says, she heard about us, and she said, oh, I have an extra home, and it's on 4 acres, and you guys can live there, because I don't want to stay in there because my divorce took place there. And so we were living in a beautiful nature sanctuary right in the thick of California.
Wow.
That was a cool external, miracle. But the miracles of inner awareness, I would say, happen so much more on a daily basis now. And it's because I've connected at my heart center through the breath and through surrendering.
Right. You had to learn to trust that, that when you're in that state is the only way you're going to be able to attract that kind of miracle into your life. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's it requires space to receive. You need space to receive.
Space, yes. Let's say that again. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, you need space to receive.
It's like, again, one of those truths that's so simple, right? Oh, I just said the truth is so simple once again, that statement, we need space to receive.
Yeah.
Of course, right?
You're already full. If you already think you know everything, or if you're decided that this is who I am. That's why I really also, I've done a pretty great practice of affirmations that are not like I am wealthy or I am like,
right.
It's more like my heart and will are one, right? Or I am open to receiving all the love that source is or that God is. Repeating these, while I'm breathing or while I'm meditating, in the beginning. It's part of my practice, I guess. And that's really helped me open up and then see the gifts that are all around me, and yeah, I don't need to go down this road too much, but when I started Earth Sky Schedule, which is a mindful exercise, you were part of it.
Right, that was awesome. I still feel like that might open up at some point again,
Yeah, we have a number of teachers that share. It's basically a donation-based studio. But in the beginning, I would have these attacks, these spam attacks, where like all of a sudden there'd be 20 people flying in with like dicks hanging out, and
oh my God,
it was unbelievable. It was like an attack. It was a cyber attack.
I'm telling you, that's I feel like there's a bunch of robots that they're just porn stuff. Yeah. And I feel like it's also a tactic of the old system trying to pull people into those distractions.
Totally. It's really, yeah. It's
every
so funny to watch because
it's funny that you bring this up, Aaron, because every single day I have to block at least 2 to 3 people from my Instagram because they're sending me these accounts and somehow they're viewing my stories and everything. They're able to interact with me somehow. And again, that's why I think they're robots. They're just like cyber attacks because I really don't think there's people behind these things. Yeah. And so they're just being sent to us to try to pull us in. And of course, I'm just blocking them every time I see them. But it's really weird. It's like, what is going on? Because I don't ever click on stuff like that. It's not like I'm, have a problem with that. It's like, I literally don't like to see that. So I'm blocking it off my account every time it pops up. And I'm like, how am I still seeing that? And I think because they know the nature of the human mind, they're trying to pull people into that whole world of like staring at, pornography and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's like another thing too, that I've noticed, since the awakening and being open to receive, we're much more sensitive to like images and we're sound. And so you can be pulled, if you don't have wisdom, I think if there isn't an awareness of, well, what is wisdom? What is discernment? Then when you get a base energy, it can draw you in another direction. And so I think the best way to anchor there is with the heart. It's staying present here in the feeling awareness here in your body, which then also opens up into heart awareness and what is actually love. It's not just, this romantic thing, love.
It's
love
literally a lifestyle. Like to me, even the word love, it's who we are. And people have just become so detached from it that it's created this whole different reality it's distorted, and it's kind of like the inverse of the heart, where it's like to us it's like a nightmare because that's really what it looks like. People are causing their own suffering, yet if they would just come back to the heart, they'd be living in bliss and remember their eternal selves, and there would be no limitations, and they'd be attracting miracles moment to moment and be in that childlike wonderment and bliss, So it's like kind of a no-brainer for us, literally a no-brainer.
Yeah, right. It's a no-brainer.
I love it. That's actually a term that I can, resonate with.
Well, and I agree with that. And then I feel like it's a balance. It becomes a balance of,
Right.
not like this kind of thinking, but it's like where
Well, it's
you're
like using it as a tool, right? Like instead
it's
of
just
driving.
rather than being a master of you, let the heart guide, and then the brain will figure out how you do the things you need to do.
Right. I heard Bashar say this, and I actually agree with it. It was, humans think that they've got their hands on the wheel of their lives and they're trying to like steer everything. And then all of a sudden they realize in their awakening that the steering wheel isn't even connected, And so that's like, I think the transition from awakening, from going from being asleep to awake, is you're just realizing like, oh my God, this little human is not in charge. There's something beyond me that's guiding me. There's a guiding force. There's a higher intelligence that can see the whole picture, that knows me inside and out. And I'm really just here experiencing. It's actually kind of it's more comforting to me than anything, because I don't have to think so much. It's like there's a force that's protecting me all the time. There's a force that's like showing me the next step to reach my highest joy and potential. And it's the little me, it's the ego part that's like, I know everything, and I've got to figure it out,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And things take time too, like especially with the nervous system, like physically and emotionally and mentally, like unwinding from being in a perpetually sympathetic state, it takes time. So just be patient. Be patient.
Yeah, one day at a time, really. And sometimes it's one moment at a time.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Because there's going to be days where you feel like you failed. Like I even still have those days where I get that voice in my head. And I think that's part of even like we were saying with the cyber attacks, I think that there's entities and different forces that are trying to get us to believe that we're not who we are, and like disempower us. And we don't have to believe it. That's the shift, is when you're in your power, you can have those days where you do nothing, and you're not going to sit there and, sabotage yourself and tell yourself like, oh, I'm lazy, I should be doing something, right?
Yeah. And trust that when you need to make a shift, you'll know. Like you'll just know. Just like I knew I needed to go to the tree in Chiapas. I just knew. It wasn't like a question. And you can look back and say, oh, I should have, gone down there 6 months prior. And
right. Yeah. There's like, the brain wants to like create all these stories.
Like, no, you don't have to go there. It's all in perfect timing. And when you realize that we reincarnate usually, so.
Well, and it's just, and again, like even to go further from the word reincarnation, I like the idea of just parallel timelines or parallel realities all happening, because the whole time idea, I'm more and more, the more I know, the more I know, the less I know. But it's like, there is no time. And that's really another construct that keeps us in this sort of like in the box thinking. But instead of just a line where it's like, here's the past and here's the future, there's actually, it's very cylindrical, it's like spherical, and infinite directions. So
and in deep states, you actually, when you experience that timelessness, it can be very peaceful. It can also be very unnerving when you first encounter that timelessness. This is and yet that's like the place that we're coming from. Like
it's our source. Yeah, it's our origin.
The source. Right. So when you realize that, then like you realize you can be anything. And then in that sense, there is like, did I think I would be going around the world and like breathing people? Did I think I would go to Switzerland, meeting up with like some guy who's talking about an entirely new history of humanity? And what I realized that I would be out here, not in a cubicle. All of these things, the world opens up, I think, the more that we get to that 0 point. that, and it's an experience. It's
And
not just
and you're talking about the
it's
0
an
point being
experience.
in the center of the heart, or the back of the heart.
Yeah, the back of the heart and spine, the dorsal vagal complex. But that's the starting point to go into deeper meditation, to deeper and deeper true meditation, not like, where the mind wanders. And then when you're in that 0 point, it becomes an experience, not a concept. And then from there you can go in all directions. But the more that we open up, I've found the more everything has had to kind of align with some kind of wisdom or discernment. Everything has a deeper implication, a ripple. I'm more aware of the ripples of one choice. And so that's when, like, the heart, I think, was the key to seeing those ripples.
Absolutely. I love it. So yeah, oh my gosh. So this year feels very pivotal for humanity. And it sounds like, wow, when did you move to New Mexico? That was recent, right?
Yeah, I moved to New Mexico in October. Yeah,
Wow,
and this area, this is the Hopi prophecy, I guess, says that this is where the new earth, one of the places I would think I would say, where the new earth will birth, the Four Corners region, during, the apocalypse, which is really just this
an ending of a time, of an era.
An ending of a time that gives us awareness of what direction and trajectory we want to move into next.
And being
God,
more
that we have that
intentional.
contrast in a way. Yeah, being more intentional.
We're creators. That's why
and
we're
being more
here.
connected with the spirit of the land. That's the other thing that has been amazing about being here, is I have never actually I've felt different energies of land, right? Like from Bali to we met in Los Angeles, Sedona. I've been, all these places have different qualities. And not only that, like they help me bring more awareness to myself and my abilities and whatever. But this place is the first time I've found like land where I feel like
it supports you.
Yeah. Like there's a connection, and it's not too overpowering, and it's not too subtle for me to feel in resonance, and that I'm receiving from the land, and that it's almost like it's speaking to me. That has been a pretty huge thing about being here. And I guess I would say, like, it's making me a better listener. Like I'm able to hear the sound, but I'm able to hear the heart, and also the ancestors. There's like an awareness of the ancestors here, and like the wisdom that they're kind of trying to tell. It's rippling through these trees and the land and the mountain.
I felt that when I moved to Sedona, or even before I moved here, I could have this direct connection to the ancestors, and the ancestors were also the trees and some of the rock formations. And so it's interesting that you brought that up the very beginning of our conversation, because that to me is very, everything's alive, everything has consciousness. So, and just practice listening in nature. And it's so beautiful that you're getting to experience that contrast of living in that city area. Even though you were in nature, it's still a very different vibration than living somewhere where you don't have all that interference energy. And that to me was detrimental in my journey as well, was to really see that or feel that.
Yeah and I bet there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this, and they are in cities, and you know what, it's okay, because there's parks nearby. And also there's a practice. The practice, I think, was the biggest aha moment for me in the awakening journey, was like finding that thing that I can come to every day.
Right. Your anchor point, that 0 point.
Yeah. Like there's all these other techniques, astral traveling, blah, it's like, or like talking to my guides, or where's the voice? Why am I not hearing a voice? Okay. Just get to the practice. Just
Right.
start doing, because this is it helps anchor in concentration. It helps anchor in body awareness. It helps anchor in heart-centeredness. The breath being, for me, I teach breath, so that's where I feel like is the starting point to feeling more awareness, because in the body, and then that, I think, can be your refuge. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to feel like, oh my God, I've got to sell the house. I've got to, turn my life upside down.
Right. I got to move to Sedona. That's like the big trend these days. That's actually why I left Sedona, because it was getting to be just this influx of all these people that were fleeing the city area, which is beautiful. But it started like, then they're all bringing all their energies, and it's, the more sensitive I get, I'm just like, whoo. So I'm happy to be out of that. But going back to what you said about, it doesn't have to be some complex thing. I would literally, I was in the heart of Los Angeles, South Pasadena, and I would go to this little park every single day, and I would do a little sun gazing, which again, you don't have to do that. You find something that really works for you. And I would do the breath work. I would do just a little yoga, but I stopped using my mat. I would just take my shoes off and I would walk in the grass. And that was part of my practice on some days. And I would just let my guidance show me what my body wanted to do, because my body started to activate in ways where there was this higher intelligence that would flow through. And if I missed one day going to that little park that was just not even 5 minutes away from my house, I would feel it. My whole day would feel off. And so that's when I really just anchored that practice in every single day, because it was detrimental to my health. And then that's when I had my experience where the energy came up through my spine just spontaneously. And you're right, it's a powerful energy. And everyone's going to handle it a little differently. For me, it was just more of a blissful state that feels good to kind of like, even just remember, like, okay, that is always possible, and that's like our natural energy flow. So it's anything is possible, as long as we get out of our way. That's what I had to do. I had to get out of my own way, and then the heart just opened up, the bliss center opened up, and you realize, wow, this is a magical world. This is a very magical world from within too. It's like you could always see the world from wherever you're at, and you could define it in so many different ways. But when you're coming from the heart, when you anchor here, it's like a totally new screen opens. It's like curtains open, right?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be as simple as when you're in the city, for example, I would see license plates, and numbers, and, just like little synchronicities would start to happen where I would notice a certain address would say a certain thing, like, that just really reflected my journey. So it was just the reminder of like, oh, you are guided all the time, I mean, and I even had moments in the city where I'd be in traffic and I would have my oming practice because it would center me really well. And I just started to channel whale energy one day, because there must have been a high level of people suffering that day. But when I started to, it was almost like I was toning with the whales. It just like shot in, and I started crying. And I literally, I know for a fact that I was transmuting something for the collective. It was really beautiful. But that was sort of like, towards the beginning of my awakening journey too, where I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, okay, this is happening, but if you're in your mind, you're going to judge yourself and maybe even stop yourself from those kinds of experiences.
Singing is such a great way to wake up the heart, because you, and to get in a parasympathetic state, a peace state, because fundamental to being in a parasympathetic state is extending your exhale, right? Well, singing,
right.
It's an extended exhale.
It really is. And it's a tone that's like coming from within you.
Vibrating through your cells. Singing is, this is something that has been a lifelong practice. It will continue to be. Because sound for me gets me in my body, in my cells. The light opens up, literally opens up sometimes. It's amazing.
As a sound healer, that's often something that I will share with my groups that I work with and create spaces for, is that your voice has that resonance that is the most potent sound healing instrument you could possibly work with. And then not only are you healing your body, but you're bringing it into the environment that you're in. So you're shifting everybody in the room with your contribution. It becomes alchemy at that point, especially if there's more than one person. But yeah, and then of course, then you think about your words that are coming out, if you are forming words and you're creating your reality. So it's like just such an important awareness, your voice, just something as simple as that.
Yeah. It's definitely the instrument that you don't need to really teach yourself. Like, even if you think that you don't know how to sing, you know how to make the sound of the voice as you're speaking. That is a note. So just practice.
Even just like an ah or an om, like just practicing those tones is enough. Like, you don't have to be some opera singer,
That's another breath sound that is really helpful, is just when you do that, the it first a full breath. It's going to open up in your chest, and then it vibrates in your chest. It vibrates in this key region, which turns on the parasympathetic nervous system. So just that sound, that vibration,
right. And then you immediately feel the energy shift when you do that.
Yeah, you feel it. It's not complicated. I think sometimes the more we go down this path, like, we experience some pretty magical awarenesses, right? But to keep it simple, it's not complicated. It doesn't have to involve all of these other awarenesses, other than just, where does it start? Here, feeling here. And then the magic opens up. But take your time, and don't get distracted by, I'm speaking not to you, I'm speaking just to the audience.
Right, just to the absolutely.
Yeah, just keep it simple, and then your own fractal, which you can't, your own kaleidoscope is going to open up. And like, trying to describe that is like trying to describe the taste of an orange. Well, like, how am I going to describe the taste of an orange to another person?
You got to experience it, right? Yeah,
you got to experience it. There's a form of Qigong that I do where we're connecting with the stars. We're connecting with the 8 directions of the stars and seeing awarenesses that come through. There's also another, I don't know if people listen to Rudolf Steiner. He's another wonderful.
Oh, I love him.
I love listening to. And he had this I'm always interested in the outer and the inner, and how, like, man is a microcosm of the outer, the cosmos. And how we have 12 nerves that run down our body, which align with the 12 zodiac. So it's possible for us to tune in through our body beyond. But we got to first get in the body. We got to be in our body and not here. This is part of the body, but let's bring it down. Right.
Our bodies are literal instruments. That's why I think sound is so powerful, because we are literally instruments, vibrational, and actual tones, that's why, sound healing is so powerful. We're using certain tones to tune up the physical body, literal points in the body that can be tuned in that way. So it's just like, wow.
Yeah. And do what feels right, like, even in the world of sound, like, there is a debate about 432 versus 440, or like, what's the exact frequency of the heart chakra or whatever. And the question is, where do you feel it? Right. There is a science, right? But the thing is I think humanity trusts too much in science to the point where they have lost their embodied experience. So the question is, well, where do you feel it?
You got to, I love that. It's like, it really is all about what you feel. And that's the journey itself. That's the awakening journey, is you
Right.
start to allow yourself to feel your emotions, even if it's uncomfortable. And then
Yeah.
those emotions start to become spirit guides, literal
And then
guides.
you also might notice that that certain sound or certain frequency or certain breath gives you awarenesses not just of your emotions, but of your thoughts that you weren't open to,
Mhm,
or to color, or
mhm.
to um a 0 point, right? The causal realm. So
Right.
like we have, yeah, opening up, realizing that we're not just our mind, we're not just our emotions, we're not just our body, we're something all in between it. We're like this liquid light. Well, I guess which that refers to your underwater, the name of your series,
Yeah, yes. It's funny
Underwater
because that
Light.
was the whole inspiration that came to me, was that it's like you're looking through a different lens or a different perspective, because most of us don't even think about like, oh, what does the world look like from underwater, right? It's like just
Yeah.
kind of,
And
you know,
the water is super programmable. You know, we all know about Emoto. If you haven't, he's
yes.
the guy that
Oh,
looked at water crystals for with emotion or intention that was placed, and it created consistently different structures depending on if it was anger or love. And the water also, where's the water in the body? Well, right down here, let me see if this is, it's like your lower belly, dantian, like your ovaries, your
right.
bladder,
The
and
second chakra too.
the
It's like
second
the
chakra. This area is key to, it is an area where we don't want to breathe. We don't want to feel there. And so the unprocessed emotions and thoughts gathers up in this belly region, in the hips. So that's why so many people are having hips. I don't want to hear about, like, yeah, maybe if you ran a marathon too many times, but there are plenty of marathoners who don't get hip issues.
right.
Breathing into this area and reprogramming that water. And that is huge in the beginning, especially clearing. It becomes we're entering a journey of clearing and making the way for the heart. And that's another breath that I share, is this diaphragmatic breathing, which is breathing
Mhm.
where you breathe into this region of the water, which we've maybe haven't been so diligent at tending that water garden.
Well, that actually brings up, I was getting the guidance that we could do a breath exercise together to close our conversation. And,
Sure.
you have so many beautiful breath techniques that you utilize. Which one would you feel that would be most important to share right now, as far as like foundation and, just going from there?
Yeah, I'll give you. So I share something, and all the people that are watching this, I do a free breath analysis for people, and I share these two breaths, but I'm only going to share one of them. It's the golden part of the golden breath work that I share, and it's deceivingly simple. It's a simple nose breath, and actually, I can put on a little bit of music if you want, just some gentle sound,
Okay.
so that we can just relax a
And the
little bit.
other thing I wanted to point out to the audience is that, what you're sharing, Aaron, with your services that you offer people, is that you're actually holding space for people energetically too, because you have, that level of spaciousness within your own self that you've developed.
Yeah, there's definitely awarenesses that I have about people's guides, color that comes through with people. Um, I can see where the gate is in people's lives a lot of times in the form of their breath and astrally. Um, that has just been part of the journey. And
Right.
so, yeah,
Because you've got some awarenesses that are online that can really assist someone that's new on their journey.
yeah, yeah. It Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I know, just to like
Just come bring
oversimplify what you just said.
no, I'm just more like, yeah, if we work together, it'll be a magical journey of you waking up to your
Right.
gifts and
I know
your
that when I worked with
abilities.
you, it was a beautiful experience. I remember, I think we did this breath that we're going to share now. I had such a profound, I think I was just staring at myself and I was just experiencing myself as pure golden light. And it was, I could
Yeah.
see like my face and everything. And I was like, oh my God, this, like, I think I started crying a little bit. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, there's a science to this. Like the original biohackers, they knew, these yogis, when you're entering into the third eye, it's white, gold, blue. So like it's this progression of light, but it's not just light, like, oh, it's a light show. It's like, no, it's awareness.
Mm,
And this is it's like therapy, or without the talking. It's like you just get to see yourself clearly, and it's,
mm,
guess what? It's safe to breathe. So even if something comes up,
mm.
okay, just it's no one's ever died breathing.
Right.
You're gonna be okay.
It's like you said, the 1% softening. If you're just
1%.
1% softening, you're doing it right.
Yeah, that's right. So
Okay, I'll let you lead us.
so this breath is, we're not going to do the more intense diaphragmatic breathing, but I'm happy to share that with people. Today we're going to just do the parasympathetic breath, which is a gentle in and out through the nose, where you extend the exhale just a little bit longer.
Okay.
So there's three components. So it's an inhale through the nose. It's like natural. It's not that long. It's just it's a very soft, gentle, and then exhaling. And to extend the exhale, it sometimes is helpful to have a little ujjayi breath. So just a little tension in the back of your throat, where if your mouth was open, it would sound like on the exhale. Whatever you heard, do it 50% less. But there's still just a feeling and a sound at the back of the throat. So you're breathing in and then you're extending your exhale longer than your inhale. And you bring feeling awareness to the backside of your heart and spine. It's not going to be dramatic. 1% more softness every exhale, bringing the feeling awareness to the backside of the heart and the spine. And it's a continuous loop of breath. So there's no pauses between the inhale and the exhale, and between the exhale and the inhale. And you don't need to rush it. You can extend the exhale. It's easy to breathe. Yeah, and when you're ready, you can start to bring your awareness to the top of your head, like a golden thread at the top of the head. What does that feel like? Just notice the feeling of your scalp, relaxing the top of your head 1% more. And just feel the softness of the light of your feeling awareness in your body, just pouring down, relaxing your eyebrows, relaxing your eye muscles in your temples, your cheekbones, and the corners of your mouth and jaw. Relaxing your vocal cords and your shoulders and all the way down through your body. relaxing your organs and inside your hips. Continuous loop of breath, extending your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. As you exhale, you feel that kiss at the backside of your heart. Feeling your full open column of light through your body. Softness in your head, softness in your heart, softness in your belly. Good. Maybe you notice your hands or your feet become a little hotter or heavier or tingly or dry. And these are the biofeedback signs that you're actually in a parasympathetic state, or it's the feeling of peace. Notice in your body. Don't let your mind trick you. Notice just the peace in the body. And the openness of the heart. Good. And when you're ready, you can still stay with your breath, but you can open your eyes.
Yay. Oh my gosh, I feel so relaxed right now.
Yeah. Well, mission accomplished.
Yay.
Yeah. Wonderful, Yolanda.
Well, thank you so much for connecting today. Aaron is, we'll leave your links in, the video, and I highly recommend him. He's an incredible being. I'd say, what I always recommend is to find somebody that's, like quite a few steps on the path themselves and have a level of experience on their own awakening journey, and someone who's humble, which you absolutely are. So thank you for sharing your gifts with us. And just like what I always tell people, there's never like an arrival. Like we're always expanding. Like even you just moved to New Mexico, and you're probably reaching new levels of awareness and sensitivities, and which is dimensional. It's like you're just tapping into more dimensional spaces within you.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, "We're all a part of the never-ending story."
I love
it. And it is never ending, it seems. So yeah, we just keep going. And
the symbol of it is two snakes eating the tail. So it's like the yin and the yang, and they're interconnected,
Yeah, right, exactly. The I forget the name of that talent.
The oracle? No.
Orin.
Oh, the Orin, yes. Which is a cool word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. But yeah, it and even we have our guides too. Everyone, we're all walking each other home. So start simple. Just do, which is really following your heart. Follow what feels true, not what feels sexy, and then
because all that glitters is not gold,
right. Or even the story, the story of what it will be, because we don't know what the story is. We are the unfoldment of it. So
Right.
Unless
Be in the
you're
now. Be in the
right,
now.
be in the now. Yeah. Great. Thanks so much, Yolanda. It's always such a, a pleasure and a real gift to get to connect with you, because I feel like, we're kind of soul brothers and sisters. We've come from the fire, and
Yes.
we made it through, that intense corporate, that old world that
It's like the diamond. The process of the diamond is you go through a lot of really pressured, high pressured life experience to get to that place of just, oh my God, I can shine. And I'm still going through levels of pressure to shine brighter. And it's just like you said, it's a never ending adventure. I don't even want to
journey.
say
Yeah.
it's a story, because it's like you're living it. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much. Let's, maybe we'll have a part 2 at some point, because you have such a wealth of breath and meditation wisdom. I love tapping into that today. Thanks for sharing it. And have a beautiful Lionsgate and beautiful
Yeah,
Monday.
you too. Happy Lionsgate. Happy Lionsgate.
Yes. All right. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Breathe and believe.
Breathe and believe. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Okay. Oops. Hold on. I just did something. Okay, I'm going to